generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's Shoot the Sheev podcast, we are covering a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the month of January. Of course, people have been reacting to some of these things as they came throughout the month, but we want to compile it all here together, give you our thoughts on what's going on, and yes, as you saw by the thumbnail, we will be getting political today, at least a little bit. So there's a handful of things that I thought were worth mentioning, especially within our interest and the things that are huge from this month. So I think what would probably be better is to start with a little appetizer today. We're going to talk about the video game news that came out this month. It's probably the least amount that out of any of the categories that happened this month. The one big disappointing thing is that Outlaws is being delayed. We had the what would you say? Assumption, maybe? It's not quite the word, but we had the idea that it was going to come out in this first quarter of 2024, and turns out it's going to be probably much later, probably around the fall season when, all the video games tend to come out. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait for that. But I guess we'll just have to see. Hopefully it's not like just delaying it just to put it in a different spot, to make certain money around certain
I was
times.
gonna say, did they give any reasoning for the delay?
Not to my knowledge. My hope is that it's just that they're polishing things and, making it more ready for when it comes out, as opposed to releasing something that is super buggy, because what we learned from Jedi Survivor is that it, released with some significant bugs. Even I had my fair share of issues, not nearly as many as some people, but I did notice some things, but maybe they're trying to avoid that from happening. It is from Ubisoft, and the most recent game that I played from them is the Avatar game. And so my hope is that it has its own identity from that. I mean, they're both big Disney titles, but I am a little bit more hopeful that the Star Wars game is a bit better than the Avatar game. So we're just gonna have to wait and see on that one. The unsuspecting thing that happened this month is we got a random Star Wars game that was added to the PlayStation Plus catalog. If you have the highest tier in the catalog, then you get access to like PS1, PS2 type games that you can download onto your console and then actually play. You don't have to stream them like the PlayStation 3 games per se. And so the big game that, well, I shouldn't say big game because some people would argue it's not, but the surprise game that we got was Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace from PlayStation 1. This is a game I have never played before. Sarah, did you play that in your younger years?
I didn't even know it existed, but I heard Star Wars Episode 1 and I thought, how has Jeremy not been playing this already? When is
Well,
this coming out? Has it come out already?
it has come out already. It is actually downloaded on our PlayStation right now. I just haven't played with it yet. My hope maybe is to do some gameplay with it. When I was younger, PlayStation really wasn't a thing at our house. We kind of stuck to the Nintendo consoles. So we had the Nintendo 64, the Game Boys. Our first non-Nintendo console was Xbox, and so I didn't even cross over into the PlayStation side of things, I think, until PS3, maybe PS4. PS4. I bought a PS2 at one point, but it was much after the release of the PS2. So, um,
And this is a PlayStation exclusive game.
the version, I believe so. So here's the thing. If you aren't aware of what was going on during the Phantom Menace, is that there's actually two games that came out that was basically the Phantom Menace. There was the Star Wars Episode 1, the Phantom Menace game that came out, which is the one we're talking about. But then there was also one called Jedi Power Battles, which followed Episode 1 as well. Um, but it was just a different game. You got to play as some other Jedi. Like you got to play as Mace Windu in that game and play through the movie instead, as opposed to like Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan. From my understanding is that this game, it's pretty much like your average, movie-based video game where you're following it, right? So you are going to be playing as the characters in the moments, kind of a thing. Um, I don't know if there's any like small extras that they added to, flush it out a little bit, or if it's 100%, straight to the movie. I don't know. We'll have to find out. But I thought that was kind of a cool surprise. We have been getting some other, older games that have been popping up as well. Ones that interest us would be Disney ones. So like we got a re-release of Up that you can play on the PlayStation 5, PS4. The original Toy Story 2 game from the PlayStation 1 N64 era, that's on there. Toy Story 3. So there's a whole bunch of them that are starting to pop up, and I thought it was super cool that not only did we get a Star Wars game recently, but one I hadn't played before. Another one that's on there that I haven't played is I think it's called Demolition or something like that. It's a vehicle based game, and again, have to check it out still. So those are on our list of possibly some future games to check out.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll definitely have to see what those are all about and laugh at the graphics of the time and have a
yeah,
good
I mean,
retro gaming night.
yeah, some of those games were, notoriously known for being bad. So yeah, maybe we'll get some giggles out of it, like you said. Um, the other piece of video game news is that we got uh, some discussion here in the United States. We don't have this game yet. It's overseas, and for some reason, it hasn't quite released over here yet. But it's Star Wars Hunters, and if you're not aware of what this is, it's an arena-based game. I don't think it's like Fortnite, where it's a humongous map by any means, but it's a uh, team versus team. Maybe there's free for all. I don't know. I haven't played it because we don't have access to it yet.
It sounds a
Um,
lot like Battlefront for the non-campaign portion.
that might be a stretch because there's not that many people. It's like a 4 versus 4 kind of a thing, not a army versus army, so to speak. Uh, but from what I heard is that they announced that there's a new update on weapons in the game, like the way that they work and function. Um, there was a reference to a character named Diego, and there's something called an arena pass that is being used. Maybe that is their version of a battle pass like Fortnite, because it kind of seemed like Diego was, releasing as part of this arena pass. Um, but we'll have to wait and see. I've seen some bits and pieces of people playing it. So, I mean, it's definitely popular. We just don't have access to it here in the United States unless you do some shiesty stuff and change your location, of course. But there's no US release just yet.
Any idea when the US release is coming, if ever?
They keep delaying it. I think it was supposed to come out last year or the year before, but they keep pushing it back for us. My guess is they want to like really fine tune it and have some solid game modes available. Because I think it's free to play right now for the whoever's playing it. It's just one of those free to play mobile games. It will be a mobile game when it comes out in the US, but it will also be on Nintendo Switch. So we will have a console version to play as well. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Much like Fortnite then.
Yeah. It's just that from what we know now, it won't be on PlayStation or Xbox.
True.
So It also makes me wonder what kind of quality there's going to be because you know the Switch has its limitations on graphics. It's, you know, night and day what Fortnite looks like between Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation. Um, so it makes me wonder, you know, are they maybe they're waiting for the Nintendo Switch 2 to come out because there's heavy rumor that it's coming out this year. Maybe they're waiting for that to come out and then it'll drop then. That way they can have, you know, better graphics, better functionality, you know, all these other things that probably would improve the playing of the game. So I'm looking forward to trying it out. With it being a Nintendo game, we probably won't cover too much gameplay or anything on the channel. I don't want to get into that stuff with Nintendo. But let it be known, we definitely will be checking it out. And if it's worth playing, I'm sure we'll stick with it. If not, we'll look to the next game. Have you ever wondered what Amazon coffins are and what they're full of? Well, we got you covered here on the channel. Check out our playlist of our Amazon coffin unboxings where Sarah and I open up boxes that have Amazon returns and we share with all of you what we get in each of those boxes. If you ever wanted to get into liquidation and want to know what types of things you can find, check us out. Now back to our show. All right, so that's all we had for video game news. Let's jump into the juicier of things, and then we'll finish up with some board games and stuff like that. So we got a handful of some really solid Star Wars movies and shows news this month. The one that I'm the most excited for, just because it's right around the corner, we did get a release date for the Bad Batch Season 3. That is coming out, you know, on February 21st with a 3-episode premiere. So what that kind of tells me is maybe they're 3 20-minute-ish episodes, and they're supposed to be like an hour-long, you know, episode that's supposed to set things up. Lucasfilm has done that in the past with these types of shows, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they're going for. Is there anything that you think may happen in season 3 or something that you're looking forward to maybe exploring some more?
Well, we left off with Omega being kidnapped, right? Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of it's just going to be their journey trying to get her and maybe a finale of her being saved or something like that. But I'm more curious. They got rid of my favorite character being Tech, right? Or one of, I should say, one of my favorite characters. So what are they going to do to keep my interest now that, you know, Omega's kind of off because she's gone and Tech's gone and there's not that many people left. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm very cautious on the idea that Tech is actually gone. Just because it seems to be a thing with Disney Star Wars that these characters come back somehow, some way. So maybe he's like a new weapon for the Empire that, you know, the clones are gonna try to go and save. Like they hear or they see, you know, Tech on the Empire side, and they're like, okay, we have one last go. We have to save our brother, so on and so forth, kind of a thing. And also Omega, having to save her too.
And Crosshair.
There's what's that?
Crosshair.
Oh yeah, Crosshair too, because he's imprisoned by the Empire right now, right? Because he turned against them.
I believe so, yep.
Some predictions I have, they may be kind of bold, maybe not. One that I'm looking forward to seeing is the relationship between Omega and the one girl from the Empire. I forget what she said her relation was. I think she said she was her sister or cousin or something. And so I'm curious to see where that goes. But probably the more bold prediction is, are we going to get like a Rogue One ending to this where, you know, we don't really see the Bad Batch later on in movies and shows? Do they die? Do they do one final mission where, you know, everything is on the line, and it comes down to we either help the rebellion and we die, or the Empire is successful and, something really bad happens. So I'm curious to see what happens with all that.
That would be pretty crazy, but that I mean that happened in Rogue One, so it's not unheard of.
Right. So that's why I'm thinking it may be plausible here. Um, but yeah, we get that show starting, like I said, February 21st, and
Woo!
it wraps up in the beginning of May. So right around Star Wars Day is where that predicted um, ending of the show will be. My hope is that now that we have a release date for the Bad Batch, maybe we'll start getting release dates for the other stuff that we're supposed to be getting this year. It's kind of unsettling to hear about things that we're supposed to be getting, and then nobody ever says any dates. And the reason why that's unsettling is because lately Disney has been known for delays or cancellations, and we don't want that to happen.
I feel like that's exactly why they're not giving any dates, is because they don't want you to be disappointed that that date that they picked isn't going to work because they can't hold themselves to a deadline.
Yeah, they have to get it together. Speaking of poor deadlines, our next thing is talking about the Ray movie. Um, there was heavy rumor that the Ray movie was either going to be canceled or delayed indefinitely. Now, my take is that I don't think it's going to be canceled. I truly believe that Disney Star Wars wants to expand on what they've established. I think that they are way more confident in their own trilogy than making things that they know the fans want. That's kind of a crazy one to say. So I do think it's going to happen. Daisy Ridley was interviewed and talked to about, this new movie, and she said that she was excited about it, and the only reason why she agreed to come back is because she felt that the story that she was told will be taking Star Wars in an exciting new direction. Now, I don't want to say this to be mean. I'm just stating some facts here. Daisy Ridley has not been in very many movies lately. Okay. And so what kind of worries me about that statement is if it actually has substance to it. When you come back to Star Wars, you get a big paycheck, right? And some of these smaller movies that haven't been very big, when things aren't going as great, you want to, jump on those big opportunities. So I don't know about you, Sarah. What do you think of, do you think this is genuine? Do you think that maybe it's a little fluff, some blown smoke?
I feel like it could go either way because I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I remember her struggling a lot with that character and just the disorganization of, what character type am I trying to portray and what's my character's background, and having all of that be such a giant mess. I feel like she would want to protect herself and not agree to something unless it was a lot more fleshed out. Um, which would mean, hopefully, that if she's wanting to participate again, they'll actually have their act together, at least better than they did before, with her character. Does that mean it's going to be a great movie? That's still anyone's guess, because we don't know. But I feel like at least with her character's identity, that maybe that'll be a little more concrete, for her to be coming back to that type of a recording studio again.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point that, she went through so much before that it's like, either they're throwing some big dollars at you or, do you really want to go through that again? Speaking of which, I can't validate because I didn't see it come straight from her mouth, but there were some reports that were coming out that um, Daisy had been talking about that she was incredibly nervous, when she did The Force Awakens. Supposedly, when they did the first table read, that her and John Boyega were like very nervous and didn't quite live up to what they wanted, and so a lot of anxiety was brought upon for those two, and then they kind of came into their own once they got to The Last Jedi. And supposedly Daisy Ridley had so much anxiety that she had like stomach issues. Like she developed holes in her stomach um, from the crazy stress levels and just wanting to be the best that she could be. And I was like, dang, that's some dedication. It makes you feel bad that they felt that much anxiety about such a project.
A lot of pressure for sure.
Yeah. Well, she was told, well, they both were told that too. Like, this isn't just a movie that you're doing. This is bigger than probably all of us because it's Star Wars. It's people's way of life. And, they're going to be affecting it in one way, shape, or form, based on how that movie comes out. So, it's definitely a big responsibility to take on. Also going along with the Rey movie is probably the most huge political thing that has happened this month. And I'm very curious to see what your point of view is with this, Sarah.
Bring it on.
The director, I apologize if I mispronounce the name, but her name is Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, I believe, and she came out and said it's about time a woman-shaped Star Wars for the new Rey movie. And number one, I find it very odd that Disney hasn't like Disney pounced all over um what's her name? She played Cara Dune. What was her name?
Oh boy.
Like on the tip of my tongue. I forget.
I'm
Gina
gonna have to
Carano? Is that her name?
yes. Yes.
So they jumped all over her for like the things that she was saying on social media, which in my opinion was very, very uh misconstrued. But anyways, it surprises me that Disney just let her say what she said because she's also said on film, because I watched this interview, the director says that she takes pride in making men feel uncomfortable. And so I I find it very odd that she would make some statements like this and want to. I mean, it will definitely push some fans away just based on what she said. And for me, let's start with your opinion. What do you think about that statement as far as it's about time a woman shaped Star Wars?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take this in two pieces. One being that one, and the second one being the making men feel uncomfortable. Blah. We'll deal with that one separate. I understand she's saying that because there hasn't been a female director necessarily, and so I guess that's what's new, correct?
I believe so, because she is not the first female director for Star Wars. So I don't understand why she said that. She's the first for a movie that could come out. Because there was the Rogue One film that, or not Rogue One, there was a Rogue Squadron film that was supposed to come out that was supposed to be helmed by Patty Jenkins. That one is on the shelf, unfortunately. It was supposed to come out this year, rest in peace. But we also had the female director from uh, the Obi-Wan series. I can see her in my mind, but I can't remember her name. She plays Fennec in the show.
Oh, yep.
So she directed a lot of those episodes. Not to mention, uh, uh, Dallas Bryce Howard. She's directed a handful of Mandalorian episodes. So there's definitely been women that have directed Star Wars stuff. Just
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a female that has directed a film yet.
So can you remind us what was the statement again?
It's about time a woman shaped Star Wars.
Okay. Has she not seen any of Star Wars before? Because if you're just talking about shaping Star Wars, both Leia and Rey and kind of Padme were icons for each of their own trilogies. Were they the absolute main character? No. They weren't like the sole focus for those trilogies necessarily. But even going back to Leia, and I'm going to stick with the originals here for a minute because, times were a lot different back then. So that's when you would expect the most misogyny to be. She was, I'm trying to think of an appropriate word here, but she was really cool. She was, um, uh, I know what I want to say, but I'm trying to keep it PG here. She was just really cool. I'll leave it at that. She was not afraid to talk down to anybody and take control of the situation and show that she is fully capable and she's not just a damsel in distress, which is kind of stereotypical, for a woman needing help. And I so even back to Star Wars roots, we haven't, in my opinion, really had that issue. Is there a 50-50 men to women on set ratio? No, but there's different characteristics of movies, right? Like this Star Wars is not necessarily a chick flick, right? And there's a very masculine energy. Do you have to be a man to identify with that masculine energy? No. I'm a woman. And I love Star Wars and I love, the masculine part of that and there's the wars and the fighting and the struggle for power and control, and I know those are things that are typically seen as more masculine things, not necessarily seen in chick flicks, quote unquote. But in terms of a woman shaping Star Wars, I don't even know what that means because we've had women in there all along as leading roles and taking charge and not just being somebody that needs other people to help them and, such minor characters that nobody cares about them. Um, it doesn't make sense to me as how that's a new thing. I feel like it's just something she said as clickbait to make people want to watch her movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, I know you mentioned a lot more like the characters that were huge that were female. I also want to add on to that let's not forget that, even though George Lucas's name is the one that always pops up for Star Wars, uh, it was his wife that basically saved Star Wars in the editing process after filming because the movie was kind of a mess. And Marcia Lucas was, like I said, arguably the saving grace for Star Wars and what, made a lot of it what it ended up being. So um, I do think it's quite a naive thing to say. I will also say that uh, the other Star Wars project that is, well, one of the Star Wars projects that's supposed to come out this year is The Acolyte. And the woman that's in charge of that one has also made some, very out there statements about, the handling of Star Wars by men, specifically George Lucas. And so I feel like some of these statements are, like you said, very clickbaity, attention grabbing, and I really don't know, you know, why Disney is okay with that. Um, I will say also my 2 cents about it, and my 2 cents is honestly very unpolitical. It's not a because she's a woman XYZ kind of a thing. My personal opinion, and this goes for any identification, if they say, like in this case, it's about time a woman shaped Star Wars. If someone had said it's about time a gay man shaped Star Wars, or a transgender male or female, whoever,
or even a minority. Like, it doesn't just have to be about gender.
Right. You know, as soon as someone says the first and then this thing, uh, immediately that tells me that the company cares more about what they identify as than what they've done with their life. Like all the different things that they've done to get to where they are today, those things do not matter. What does matter is that they identify as this type of person. And I feel like although the people that are in these positions like this director, she probably doesn't feel, because she's the one that said it, she probably doesn't feel like her the things that she's done in the past is taken away from her. But I will say, as someone from the outside looking towards this, it takes away everything that, like, I don't even want to see what she has done in the past, because she's just banking on, I'm a woman, so this is gonna be, you know, awesome, or this is going to be groundbreaking or changing of Star Wars. And it's
Well, I mean, it's a first impression, right? You're one sentence, one liner of this is who I am, and that's all you have to say about yourself is that you're a woman. Like, I if you're somebody who I've never heard of before, like this director, for example, that's all I know about you now. I don't know about any of your other projects. So unless I go and do research, I'm not going to know what else you've done, which could even bring in more money for those other projects too, you know?
yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to. I'm going to give an example here, and Sarah, I'm not trying to offend you by any means, but let's say Sarah showed up on stage, and Lucasfilm goes, Sarah, this is Sarah Merrill, and she is going to be directing as the first woman doing this Star Wars project. I can tell you right now, based on what Sarah has experience with, I would not want to go see that movie because she doesn't have the skills or the
I don't have any
history.
film background. Let's put it
Right.
that way.
He doesn't have that background. So just putting this label out there that's going to grab people's attention, I feel like that discredits what's going to happen, because me, I want to know what's going to be what the movie's going to be about. I hardly care who the director is, but with this statement, I feel like Lucasfilm has now grabbed more attention to the female director than this is what the movie is going to be. And so for me, honestly, I'm not entirely excited until I see more about the movie. But the more that I see the director kind of, shooting her mouth off for attention grabbing, it doesn't make me excited. Needless
Yeah,
to
I want to know more about how she's actually going to affect the film in a positive way, not just adding more female energy, because that's all fine and dandy. But how does that actually affect the franchise and what we know the characters to be and, the world of Star Wars, you know?
right. And like we said, Star Wars has not been 100% only in the hands of males, men. It's not true. People that feel that way have not done their homework, and honestly, the people that feel that way should not be employed by Lucasfilm to handle their projects if these people do not care to know, even some of the history of Star Wars. The thing that scares me the most about the Acolyte show is that there are people that came out at Star Wars Celebration and were talking about things, and they were like, "Yep, it's great to be here. Never seen any of this Star Wars stuff before, but I'm in the show." And it's just like, why do we have people that, one, don't know anything about it, or two, don't care to know anything about it? So, um,
It's a lot like when we were talking about our top movies, right, for 2023. And one of them, I'm not gonna say where on the list, you gotta watch that video to find out where on the list it landed. But one of them was Dungeons and Dragons, and we were talking about, forget her name. Can you help me remember her name?
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes. Yes. And, it's a film about Dungeons and Dragons, and she was somebody who really likes to play that outside of the set. Like that's part of her background. And I feel like having that type of culture, if you're gonna be in a movie like Star Wars, you should have some of that culture part of your personality. I feel like it helps you understand the way the fans want to receive the movie. And I feel like it will only help you. I don't see it hurting you at all. So to hear these people bragging about not knowing anything about Star Wars, or maybe not bragging, but just stating that even, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, same. Well, we have one more small little piece of movie TV shows news that we'll move on to here, and it's very, very short. But we got a Mandalorian and Grogu movie announcement. Uh,
Woohoo!
Supposedly, this is supposed to be the next Star Wars film that is coming out. A lot of people are predicting somewhere around 2026 because it's supposed to go into production at the end, well, near the end of this year. And so if they start working on it by around the end of this year, it, at least based on previous Star Wars films, it seems to take roughly 2 years to put it all together. So if they start at the end of this year, we can maybe expect around that Christmas time for 2026. So
So then
uh,
here's a question for you. We ended The Mandalorian last season with Bo-Katan being the new Mandalorian, yes? So is this Mandalorian Grogu movie actually going to be our normal Mandalorian? Or is it going to be Bo-Katan and Grogu?
I definitely think it's gonna be Mando. Just based on the shot that they released when they announced it. We ended, spoiler alert, we ended season 3 of Mando with him and Grogu just kind of being off on their own at their own place. And, they're just chilling. And so I feel like maybe we'll get some sort of either side story or maybe some sort of uh, movie that is supposed to eventually connect to the big movie that Dave Filoni is in charge of, the one where he's supposed to bring Mando, Ahsoka, and Boba Fett all together. So maybe this will be kind of the stepping stone to it. Who knows? But what we do know is that Disney is trying to figure out what next Star Wars film would probably make an impact. You don't want to put one out there and it just flops. And everybody knows that Grogu is a huge icon with Disney's Star Wars. And so I think by putting out that movie, it'll bring some people in. I'm curious to see where they do go with it, but
Yeah, when you said this might be a stepping stone for that movie to bring everything together, I thought this was the movie to bring everything together. Like maybe it focuses on Mando and Grogu, but that it was still going to bring the various characters or TV shows together as one.
I say I don't know if they didn't reveal the name of Dave Filoni's film. There's huge rumor that Dave Filoni's film is going to essentially going to be Heir to the Empire, which is a book that came out pre-Disney that was supposed to be like the episode 7. And so I don't see Mando and Grogu being like the center stage for that. I think Ahsoka would be more center stage for that movie, along with the New Republic and dealing with Thrawn. Um,
Mm.
My hope is that we see a little bit of what Thrawn is up to in that movie, but I don't think it's going to be the first movie of that next set of things.
That makes sense.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to grow up during the prequel era? Do you wonder what type of merchandise was around then? How different was it than it is now? Check out our videos on this channel where we talk about the merchandise of the Phantom Menace and the merchandise of Attack of the Clones. They are here on this channel. The Phantom Menace is my first video ever on YouTube, so there's a special place in my heart for that one, so please, if any, check that out. Now back to our show. So that is our news for movies and shows. So we're going to end this news section with some news on board games and card game stuff, which is, some of our favorite things to be involved with. The thing that I'm most excited to talk about here with you is the news about Villainous. So, if you guys aren't familiar with Villainous, it is a board/card game where you take on the role as a villain. There is Star Wars, of course, because that's what we're talking about it. But there's Marvel and Disney as well. Excuse me. But you take on a villain, and then you have an objective of a villain is like an evil plan that you have to complete before everybody else. And everybody has their own villains, and then that's the premise of the game. But anyways, there's some news that we're going to be getting a new expansion here in 2024 for the Star Wars Villainous. There's going to be new expansions for the other ones too, but we're going to focus here on the Star Wars one. The current Star Wars Villainous game that we have has Vader, Ventress, Grievous, Gideon, and Kylo Ren available. And then there was one expansion that was released that has Boba Fett, Cad Bane, and the Seventh Sister. So these are all the characters that we currently have that you can use in the game. And then when the new set comes out, Ravensburger has decided to move to a new form of expansions, and it's going to be a 2-character expansion. Why? Because they feel that it may be a easier way to be more accessible. So they tried 3-character expansions, and I think those were like $30 or $35 a set, somewhere in there. And then they also tried releasing just 1 character at a time for a couple of things, like Venom for Marvel was one of those, and that was like $15, I think. And now they're trying this new approach with 2 characters. And so that's going to be at a price point of $20 for the expansion. We have no indicators so far of who these characters would be. The only thing that we do know is it's going to come out this summer. So, Sarah, what do you think would be 2 characters for Villainous that would be a cool pairing to come out?
Ooh, as a pairing,
Well,
that's what
okay.
makes it tricky because the two that come to mind that we don't have, although they are in no way paired together, is one, Sebulba. I think that would be pretty cool, right? And adding some sort of an element to that type of gameplay. Or 2 was Snoke. Now, I'm not necessarily.
Okay. Can I stop you right there for 1 second?
All right.
I think the Sebulba idea is genius. Like, what if they made some sort of way where it's racing? Like, the different locations of the board are like different parts in the race, or maybe different circuits that you go to, like the Boonta Eve circuit or, XYZ circuit. That could be really cool. Like, the things that you get at the different locations are like his winnings from those races. I'm just saying that could be a golden idea.
Well, if they come out with it, I'm taking ownership. That was my
Yeah,
idea
we
first.
want royalties, dang it.
The second one I was going to say would be Snoke, and I'm not necessarily a Snoke fan. That seems like an easy one to choose as a relatively newer character who's a villain who could potentially have somewhat of a. What's hard with me with that one though is, with Villainous, they got to have some sort of a storyline or an objective. And I feel like Snoke doesn't really have that in his film, so there's not really a way for you to like play out what he does in the movie, like with Sebulba, where we were just talking about the racing. I don't really see that with Snoke. Who would you pick?
Honestly, I hadn't thought about it too much. Um,
Well, you put me on the
one
spot, so here you go.
One character that is very popular that I'm surprised is not part of this stuff yet is Darth Maul. I think that
Mm,
he could have a
yes.
very good, cool storyline. He's not just in the Phantom Menace. He was in the Clone Wars. He was in Rebels. He was in Solo. So there's a whole bunch of things that he could actually be doing. Like maybe his villainous plan is to eventually track down Kenobi and go after him and try to kill him, kind of a thing. Because we have, like, when you play villainous, it's not they have to play out in the movie. It's they had this plan from the movie. What if it was successful? Because I think Vader's is like bring Luke to the Emperor and then turn him to the dark side, kind of a thing. You know, you're trying to do the villainous plan. So I could see the Darth Maul thing, you know, with him achieving his goal of hunting down and killing Kenobi.
How
Um,
have we not had an Emperor Palpatine one yet?
I was thinking about that, but I feel like his character would be like his plan, according to Disney's Star Wars, was happening over 9 films. And so they would either have to pick apart something, I think, you know, like a specific part in time of what he was doing, like maybe executing Order 66, and how does he line things up with that, you know, become Chancellor, get the army, and, you know, and stuff like that, and move forward. I could see like little segments, but I can't see like an overall.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, his story is very expansive, but I feel like there's definitely some parts of the movies that you could take plots from and, I'm mainly thinking of the prequel trilogy because I feel like that's where we first start to see his plans begin to grow. That's kind of his origin. Um I think that's where I would focus it on, but yeah.
Yeah. So Darth Maul is my like prequel era prediction of something that could happen that would be cool. Let's see. Original trilogy, I would like to see Jabba the Hutt. Uh, I
Ooh, yeah.
don't I don't really know how he would be done, but I think he is cool, and they're very smart over there at Ravensburger and making things cool. So I think Jabba would be a good one. Um, Sequel trilogy, I'm picking one from every era. Sequel trilogy era, hmm, who would be good from the sequel? I think a very easy cop out would be like Captain Phasma, because like that's another option of a villain from the sequel trilogy. Um, mm, that wouldn't be very exciting. I was gonna say General Pride maybe because you know he was kind of like acting as if he was on the First Order side, but really he was on the Emperor's side. Like maybe your process would be tricking Kylo Ren into XYZ, and but that doesn't sound very exciting. Um, man, who would else be a good villain from? I would have to say Phasma. I don't really know anybody else that would like
I feel
really
like she's a good choice. Somebody we haven't had yet.
yeah, she could lead up to defeating Finn in the face-off. So I'm gonna go with that. So Darth Maul, Jabba the Hutt, or Captain Phasma. That's who I hope we get. I can't wait to see it be something else. Um, I also think Count Dooku would be a good one. Just throwing it out there. If they want to, if they dip their toes into like Star Wars Legends, that would be kind of cool as well, like getting Star Killer out there. But I think that is way too far-fetched to happen.
Yeah, I feel like that one's probably pretty less likely.
Yeah. You also got to think about how do they expand on the game too? Like what characters could they bring that would bring an element to the game that they haven't already? So like the base set of Star Wars brought the ships. And then I know some of the stuff for the Marvel, one of the expansions was like doing things to other people's realms and having to mess with things. And so it makes me curious what game mechanics would be new that they could bring into it with new villains as well. Which your idea with Sebulba, that could be huge, you know, with the racing. So and his little figure thing could be like his pod racer. That would be dope.
I want something with chance cubes. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, we're bringing out Watto. He's gonna be the next villainous expansion. That would be sweet. I would so buy that. I buy these on day one anyways, but I would so buy that. Okay, so that was some villainous excitement. I will just drop the little tidbit, and the one that I do know about that is coming out and has been announced as far as who is going to be in it is the Disney villainous expansion, and that will be the villain from Wreck-It Ralph, the like bubblegum guy, whatever his name is, and then the tiger from Jungle Book, Shere Khan. So look forward to that. I know I am. I will be there day one, pick it up. The last thing to talk about today was the one that I was a bit surprised of. I've never heard of this, and so uh, Sarah and I will have to check this out when it comes out. There is a new cooperative card game that is coming out from the company, I'm trying to pronounce this right, Asmodee and Zygomatic, and it's called Star Wars Timeline Twist. I think it says, as far as I read, it's supposed to come out on February 16th, so this month, or this next month, excuse me, sorry, in February. It's only going to be 20 bucks. I tried to see what this game was going to be about because the only thing that I kind of predict is that maybe some timeline things are going to be messed up and you try to deal with it. But supposedly there's other renditions of this game. So like Star Wars is kind of a branch off of what the games are known for. Like there's some games where there's like historical figures from the past and then history has been all messed up and they have to try to, figure things out. And so um, I don't know much about it, but I'm definitely willing to try it out. So we'll have to check it out. And we like cooperative games. Those are a lot of fun for us. So looking forward to that. I don't know if you have much to say on that. Just
I personally, I like uh more traditional gameplay than co-op games typically, but I am curious to see any new Star Wars game that comes out. I'm there to try it out. Let's see how it plays and how much it can hold my attention.
yeah, and I'm sure, if it's a good one, we'll be reporting on it. We started doing game nights with Dyad on the first Friday of every month where we, talk about a cool board game or card game and tell you how to play it. And if this one makes the cut, well, then we'll be talking about it soon because it comes out very soon. All right. Was there anything that you heard, Sarah, in the Star Wars news that you'd like to mention?
I don't think so. I feel like we touched on all the points that I would have brought up. So, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that is our discussion on the different news pieces that came out this month in January for Star Wars. I'm very excited to see what comes about in February. Maybe we'll get some news about the other shows, maybe some game updates. Who knows? I just hope there's some good stuff. But that is our discussion for today. If you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We are doing at least 2 Shoot the Sheaves a month, one being on a Star Wars topic that we come up with, and then one that covers the news from the month. So check back here. They will be coming out on Wednesdays, so look for those. Drops a like if you like the video, and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on the stories that we covered. And if there were any that we didn't cover that you think is worth mentioning, let us know about it. And then we will probably learn some stuff from you. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.